You're listening to the best local sports show. Boots, Bats and Balls on Six Towns Radio.
Chills Bar, Bearsley, sponsors of Port Vale content on Six Towns Radio.
Okay, Adam Yates, disappointing result on Tuesday night. Rochdale at home. They came here with a game plan, obviously, to kick hell out of Vale, and they seemed to do that.
Well, if you look at the way they played first half, they didn't get a kick. They were trying to kick living daylights out of our wingers, and they did do that, but they didn't get much joy out of it, because every time that they did it, got a free kick and the wingers got after them again. And I think, certainly at one point I thought they were going to get a lad sent off, but it didn't, and in the end, Morsey got sent off, and the game changed. But Morsey is he's a young lad. He's a very good player, and he's mentally strong. So, I would expect Morsey to be hurting, but he'll learn from it, and he needs to. But he will do. I'm sure that him sitting out of the 3 or 4 games, whatever it is, will hurt him, and he'll realise and he'll learn from it, and he's got to take that into the future and make him a stronger person.
Yeah, he has been set off before, and he's a young lad, passionate as well. And he said he's very talented. A lot of teams have been watching him. I think it was one of them where somebody was going to get sent off, and you didn't know where it was going to go. And as it happened, they were riding high, and it changed the game, the sending off, didn't it?
I think that the only way they were going to get back into the game was by that. I don't think they could have really changed a lot off the bench. I don't think they could have changed the way they were playing. Every time they asked us a question, we answered it. And they clutched at straw with a tackle, and he's gone, and that's changed the game in their favour. I mean, they brought a centre forward on at left back for the last 15 minutes or so. So that shows that the way that they were playing and the way that the game panned out for them.
Yeah, I thought when it was 2-1, I thought they're going to nick another goal here. You just could feel it, couldn't you? I don't know why. It wasn't though. They were the most attacking team, even with 11 against 10. But you just felt like it was going to happen.
I mean, the goal, the second goal is a brilliant strike. It's a wonder strike. They've hit a good shot first half, which is probably 30 yards out, just touched the bar. But that was a goal. Which you have to applaud sometimes. But it was disappointing that it was costing us 2 points. We ground it out, and it was tough to take, and there was no one that was hurting more than the man that got sent off. The management was reeling. We were disappointed and angry, but Sam Morsey had made his apologies, and I think he'll come back stronger from it.
Yeah, I was talking to a Shrewsbury fan who went up last year, and he was saying, these games where we had so many players sent off, and he sort of said, like, to make an omelette, you got to break some eggs, because it is a difficult league to get out of. You're going to get kicked, and you're going to kick back, aren't you?
Well, the thing is, it's a long season, and if we're averaging 2 points a game, we're getting promoted. If we're not averaging 2 points a game and we still get promoted, it makes no difference. So what we've got to look at is trying to look at this promotion in the long term. There's a long way to go, and we are in the top 3 positions at the minute, so an automatic promotion. But there's a long way to go, and there's a lot more twists and turns. And I'm sure that in this point in May, when we've played all the games, we won't be turning back and talking about Sam Morsey sending off against Rochdale. I would expect us to be promoted, and that's what we want as a football club.
Well, you've done a lot of the work already. The pitches are going to get heavier. There's going to be injuries. There's going to be changes, maybe. Hopefully, when the new owner comes in, Mickey might have some money to spend, maybe on loan players or whatever, to bolster the squad. It is going to change. There's so long to go, isn't there?
Well, Christmas is a tough period, and if this takeover's done before then, which everyone expects it to be. It's a godsend really, because we're threadbare at the minute, and as Christmas comes, I would expect more injuries and suspensions to kick in, and we will need a bigger squad. So it can't come fast enough. And I know as a core of players, we've got a strong core. So I wouldn't imagine the manager will want to bring any real big characters who can chat the dressing room in, or any players from other clubs that are going to come here and be playing for themselves, because it just wouldn't work.
Yeah, you were a regular starter last season. Obviously things have changed this season, but you knew at the beginning of the season, with them only being so many in the squad, 20-man squad, that you would get your chance. You know what I mean? Obviously you keep playing your game, and when the chance comes along, you step up to the plate, don't you?
Well, football is it's a game where too much onus can get put on one game, and I've learned that certainly in the last 3 or 4 years that you don't get too high when the highs are going well, and you don't get too low when the lows are coming around. You've got to get a happy medium, and something that you've got to learn to cope with, and that comes with experience. And it's something that over the last 2 or 3 years I've dealt with. But it doesn't make not playing any easier. It's difficult, but everyone's got a part to play in the squad. And come the end of the season, if we're a promoted squad and I'm part of that team or the squad, then I'm happy.
Yeah, good way of putting it. A long trip to Southend at the weekend.
Yeah.
Something you're relishing going down there again?
Well, it's a tough. We prepare right. We'll be going the day before. We'll make sure that everything's done right, and the manager's thorough in his preparation, and he gives the players no excuse to not perform on a Saturday, and that's the way it should be. Everything that we need will be done for us. Everything that we need to know about them will be there. It's a long way to go, but it's a tough place, and we need to defend well there because Southend are a good side and they can put real pressure on you at home. But that's what it is. It's the pressure's on them because they're a home team. They need to go out and entertain. We'll be there. We won't have to entertain their fans. We just need to get a result. And if we get the 3 points, we've done well if we come away from there not losing. It's a decent point.
After the FA Cup game, which was a bit of a last minute thing, and then the draw at home, will it be a bit of a relief to go away in a league game?
Yeah, I think so. It's a long time since we've had an away league game. It was the last one, Burton. Yeah. It was 2.5 weeks or so ago. We had great support that night. I think there was only one team going to win that game, and that's fair play to our fans that come and outnumbered theirs. It is a bit of a welcome break. Sometimes because Vale Park's such a big and nice pitch and nice ground, teams can come here and fancy it. And they look at the pitch and it's nice. The dressing rooms are nice, and it's a championship club, that's playing in League Two. So it's sometimes when we go away from home, the pressure's off us, and with the pace and ability we've got going forward, we're always a threat for any team. I think Southend will be looking at us more than we're looking at them.
Yeah, you've got a couple of home games, a couple of away games in November.
Yeah.
So that might give a chance for some of the injuries to come back. And then December, cup games, league games. It's going to be a bumper December, isn't it?
Well, it always is. And December's a month which if the weather goes tits up in December, you can have a good lot of backlog of games, and that's something that you don't want. That's when you really are pushed as a squad and a team. So we want a bit of luck through December. We want our injuries and suspensions to go right. We want the weather to be right so that we take in games and getting through them. And we want to come through end of December, January time in a similar position. Looking forward rather than over shoulders.
Yeah, what's the position at the moment with Darren Murphy?
Well, he felt his hamstring on Tuesday. I would imagine he'll have a scan. I've not seen him this morning, but I would imagine he'll have a scan. I think that as a ball winner and attacking, someone who attacks the ball, set plays, he's a strength we've got, and he will be one that was missed.
Okay, thank you very much, Adam.
Cheers, mate.
We love music. You are locked into Six Towns Radio.